Okay, the case file's cold, the incident long since passed. But for this investigation, we're dusting it off. We're pulling the file on a cosmic conflict, running a post-incident analysis on a war that, you'll see, wasn't just fought over territory, but over the very landscape of the mind. So let's start with this. What if hell isn't someplace you go to, but something you actually carry around with you? We're opening the case file on the moral cosmos to investigate that very question, examining the key theaters of operation, from the highest peaks of authority all the way down to the darkest valleys of despair. So, our investigation kicks off with two opposing powers and their domains. But look, this isn't just about good versus evil. No, this is a clash of geographies, of architectures, two fundamentally different ways of seeing the entire universe. Now, our intelligence paints two completely different pictures. On one side, you have these sovereign peaks, a high mountain kingdom of just overwhelming light and absolute order. This is the seat of what the files call right reason. And on the other side, the sector of despair. And this place isn't just a prison, it's the smoldering aftermath of a failed coup. Its capital, Pandemonium, is described as a masterpiece of architectural spite. I mean, a whole city built from wreckage for the sole purpose of planning revenge. But here's where it gets really interesting. There's a critical anomaly noted in the dossier. The main subject, the adversary, well, he suffers from a condition logged as hell within. It's a permanent psychological torment. And what that means is, the burning lake isn't the real punishment. The true prison is something he carries inside his own mind. And this quote? This is the key to the entire case file. This internal geography, this landscape of agony and total self-absorption, it means the subject is always in his prison. It literally doesn't matter if he's standing in the abyss or walking through the garden. That torment is his constant companion. Okay, so let's move to the primary crime scene and see how all this builds. We are now examining the Eden sector, a pristine, new world poised right between the two great kingdoms of light and shadow. So, the initial reports describe this Eden sector as a totally pristine and controlled environment. They call it a village of perfect mental and emotional equilibrium. See, it was designed to be a bridge, a place where the physical and the spiritual could meet, where communion with the divine was totally direct and uncrowded. You gotta understand, this was not just some idyllic garden, it was a high-stakes test of loyalty. You've got Adam, the sovereign steward. You've got this state of perfect equilibrium. But the most important test variable was what the dossier calls the relational factor, that bond between Adam and Eve. And crucially, this was an open frontier. It was protected, yeah, but it was deliberately left vulnerable. All right, our investigation now funnels right down to the specific point of failure, the absolute epicenter of the systemic collapse. We're zooming in on coordinate 0. The dossier identifies this location not as a simple tree. Oh no, it calls it a forbidden, shimmering lantern. This wasn't just about a rule. It was the physical manifestation of a boundary, the exact coordinate where the absolute law of the creator intersected with the free will of his new subjects. And the adversary's method here wasn't brute force at all. It was a sophisticated psychological op. Step 1, profile the targets. Identify their hidden desires for status and knowledge. Step 2, reframe the divine rules, not as protection, but as chains. Step 3, redefine breaking the law as some kind of act of liberation. And for the finishing touch, weaponize their love for each other to make sure the breach was total. See, he didn't force them. He just provided the twisted logic for their own self-destruction. So, with the breach complete, we turn our focus to the perpetrator's profile. And what it shows us is a steady, predictable, and totally self-inflicted decline. The degradation log in this file tracks this fascinating downward spiral. I mean, the subject starts as a majestic archangel, a little faded, sure, but still majestic. But his methods force a change, and he becomes a shadow operative, having to rely on disguise. And this moral compromise is mirrored physically, as his form just keeps shrinking until he's a crawling reptile. And by the end, this grand cosmic rebel is nothing more than a shivering shadow, his ambition just reduced to petty, localized spite. And here's the ultimate irony of this entire case. The adversary's whole operation was self-defeating. Every single action he took to spread his own misery only succeeded in deepening his own internal exile. The investigation pretty much proves that turning away from the source of all life, well, it only leads to decay. So let's conclude this investigation with the aftermath. Because after the breach, after the verdict, an unexpected new frontier actually emerged from all the wreckage. The final report shows two starkly different outcomes. On one hand, the adversary remains trapped in his internal abyss, just a hollow shell consumed by self-absorption. But humanity, even though they're exiled, they begin a new journey. Their failure transforms them from these figures of innocence into what the file calls humbled students of grace, now capable of building a new paradise within. So they leave the perfect village for the rocky fields of a much, much harder world. But they don't go empty-handed. They carry with them what the file calls a map of hope, a flickering spark of the king's promise, and the potential for a deeper, more resilient faith, one that's forged in hardship, not just handed to them in paradise. And that brings us to the close of this case file. And what it suggests is that the true battleground was never a garden or a kingdom. It was always about the internal landscape, that moral cosmos we each carry inside of us. So the final question really isn't about heaven or hell. It's about the map we choose to follow. The one for the world around us, or the one for the world within?